Hello, I am Nalshun, and this is my review and recap for the fall season of 2023, Week 1. We do not have a lot of anime for this first week, but we will have more next week and the following week. Please look forward to them, and now, let's begin with My Daughter Left the Nest and Became an S-Rank Adventurer. Episode 1. We start off with Belgrieve the Red Ogre. As he has lost his leg, he has decided to retire. One day, while walking around the village, going out to the forest, he finds a baby that has been abandoned. He decides to take her in and raise her. He ends up naming her Angie, and from there, he is training her. She decides, after becoming very attached to her father, growing up, that she wants to be an adventurer like him, to protect people, and to help. So she goes off and joins a guild. Years later, she ends up becoming an S-rank adventurer, as the title says. Way better than an A-rank adventurer. From there, we get to see as she slays tons of monsters and finish quests really quickly, just so that she can get some time off and go see her dear father. You get to see the guild master looking at the pile of quests she's just completed very quickly, and he seems a bit scared at how strong she is. On her way back to see her father, you can see someone is being attacked, so she runs off to go save them. Finding the person and saving them, they are the daughter of the Count of Beardox. Not sure how to pronounce that name. But the Count's daughter there tells her, "If you would be so kind and you could do it, please help me go see my father. He is sick and dying, and I'd like to see him at least once more before he passes." Hearing about that and how much Angie loves her father, she decides to help the Count's daughter. They take her right away, but unfortunately Angie's time off has run out and she has to return to the guild. Hearing there that more powerful monsters have appeared, and more monsters at that. The guild is having troubles keeping up with them, and she has to help out. Unfortunately, time off may be a bit away. You get to go over and clip seeing Belgrieve the Red Ogre as a man appears at his door. There's a group of kids with this man, and he's like, "Oh, it's that time already." He goes to get ready, they all go out into the forest, and he is helping them learn how to scavenge and essentially be adventurers while acting as a guard for them. Wonder if he can train up some more people to be S-rank adventurers like his daughter. Time will tell. And time will also tell if Angie can go back and see her father. Well, I would rate this first episode a 7 out of 10. I've enjoyed it quite well. There's not too much going on in it, not too much to keep you engaged, but it's nice, it's relaxing, and it's a heartwarming story. I look forward to seeing more. And now, for Freyren, Episode 1. In this episode we get to see, as the adventurers have finished their journey to take down the Demon Lord, they are now heading back to the castle to be celebrated as heroes. During this celebration we get to see some reminiscing about the past, how the priest in the party is corrupt as he drinks alcohol quite a bit, and we also get to see how Freyren occasionally gets eaten by mimics. They also contemplate leaving her behind, as this seems to be a regular occurrence. And then we also get some talk about how they started their adventure. Freyren complains about the fact that they only got 10 copper to start their adventure with, and now they're putting on this big festival celebrating the great return of the heroes who took down the Demon Lord. Freyren feels that it's a bit self-serving there, but hey, the adventure's done and they've saved everyone from the Demon Lord. Here we get to move on to a meteor shower, and Freyren comments that, yeah, it's alright, but here in 50 years there'll be a better meteor shower. She'll come back and she'll see it with the rest of them again. So we go and they all split their separate ways. Freyren goes to start finding more magic. She wants to study more, learn more spells, even if they're just mundane. It's her hobby. The hero's going to stay in the town. It seems like the other guys have gone off to go do their own thing as well. So Himmel stays there. Later, Freyren, when traveling around, finds she needs a certain component for one of her spells. The dragon horn that was emitting some evil energy, and she remembers that Himmel still has it. So she heads back to the city where Himmel has been, and she talks to him. It's been 50 years, and she knows the meteor shower is about to start, so it's about time for them all to meet up again. She talks to him, turns around and sees him, and he is a old man, small, hunched over, but he's still like, I look good in my old age. Way to go. He definitely has a nice spirit. Well, he also comments that Freyren hasn't really aged at all. She looks exactly the way she did when they left. He takes her back to his place, they chat for a little bit, and she tells him about the horn they needs. He's like, yeah, I've held on to it. I kept it locked away in a cabinet for many years. I expected you'd probably need it one day. As nice as that is, she accepts it, and she's like, it really wasn't that big a deal, she thinks to herself. But she has it sent away with the bird, and the rest of them start to gather, and we get to see all of them earlier in the day. Her commenting on how the corrupt priest, he is starting to look a little bit better in his old age. And the dwarf, he doesn't look much different. From there, we go to the meteor shower, and Himmel looks at it and comments how beautiful it is. We get to see the meteors as they come down, the light sparkling, and then the next scene we cut to, we see that Himmel has died, presumably that same night. They had just one little thing left together, and as she's standing there during the funeral service, she doesn't express any emotion. People start commenting on how lifeless she seems to be, even though they were companions. But then the priest turns and says, "What about me? We aren't showing any expression either, any sorrow." And they all start getting pissed off at the corrupt priest. Later, we see him being buried, and Freyren, she starts crying. She's sad because she never spent enough time with them. She says it was a mere 10 years. To her, that whole adventure was just such a small time. She never really got to know them. We see the priest, who earlier in the episode also did this, but pats her head again, and the dwarf pats her back. She says, "Don't pat my head." But they're comforting her as she is crying. It was a very touching scene. The sadness about how long an elf lives, and how when she doesn't fully spend her time learning about people, it doesn't feel that long. She doesn't connect to people very well, and she wishes that she had. We get to see the corrupt priest telling her later, "If you're ever over in the city where he's at, please pour a drink on his grave. He probably doesn't have much longer left to live, as he's gotten old and his drinking is catching up to him." The dwarf tells her that when you get old, your vigor goes down and time starts to slow down for you. So we get a little scene where she tells him goodbye as she goes to study more magic. Later, years later, she goes and she visits the corrupt priest. She finds out that he has been taking care of this one little girl as she is trying to learn magic. He knows he doesn't have much time left and asks her a favor to take care of the child. She says, "I can't do that the child would just be a hindrance in my way. She would not survive long." So, the priest there, he decides to say, "Okay, I've got something else to show you then." He shows her a book of magic, this in some old language. It's kind of mixed up, and it'll take her a while to translate. So, he's like, "How long will it take you?" She tells him, "About 4 or 5 years. It's a book about immortality, and he wants her to translate it. Maybe he'll be able to have more time to look after the child and teach her more, if he can live long enough." So, with that, Freyren decides to help. She starts reading the book, trying to translate it, and she finds the girl out in the forest trying to practice magic. Apparently, the corrupt priest told her that if she can hit the rock that's over a large canyon with her magic and blow a hole through it, that she is skilled enough to go out adventuring on her own. She then reveals that if she can do this, then the corrupt priest will not have to worry about if he passes away, how will she get by? She'll be skilled enough. So, Freyren helps a little bit with her learning some magic. And this will be the goal for the next 4 or 5 years. Her teaching the little girl magic, while at the same time trying to translate the book, and hopefully helping our corrupt priest live a bit longer. It was a very lovely episode, and I would rate this a 9 out of 10, almost perfect episode. I would say the cutting around quite a bit detracted a little bit, but for the first episode, trying to cram a lot of information in and keep us hooked, it was probably a very good idea. I look forward to the next episode, as I will talk about here in a minute. Okay, Freyren Beyond Journey's End, Episode 2. So in this episode, we get to see Freyren training Fern, the little girl that Hyder, the corrupt priest, had taken in. We get to see how she grows, how she's changed over 4 years worth of time. Freyren comments that the girl is very skilled and learned what would normally take mages 10 years to learn. We also get Hyder, the corrupt priest, who goes talking to her about the book, how much she's translated, or the magic tome, and it's like, yep, we found out that there's not really much of anything in there. It does not explain how to grant immortality or bring back the dead. But it seems like Hyder knew that already. He already expected that this was going to happen because the mage would have used it on themselves if it was so successful. Freyren just kind of seems a bit puzzled as to why she'd have to translate a book like that, but then Hyder moves the conversation saying, "How's Fern's magic doing?" Where she explains how well she's been doing as like, that's good to hear. So, she is no longer a hindrance on your journey then. Freyren now learning that she has been tricked. A little upset, but not too much. He then asks her, "Will you take Fern with you tonight and leave him?" She responds to him with, "No, she will not leave him. He should give as many memories as he can to Fern and not go down this path. As, well, Freyren has learned, spending as little time with the person as possible, you don't get to learn much about them. You don't get to enjoy their company." Freyren decides to stick around, and they take care of him until he ends up passing away. By that time, Fern was able to successfully launch magic to destroy the rock across the cavern. Now, Freyren and Fern start adventuring on their own. Freyren having had learned that Hyder had taken in Fern, as that's something that Himmel would have done. We see that Hyder was trying to better himself in old age. He'd given up drinking, taken in someone to help them, essentially saving them as Himmel the hero would have done. It was sad, it was touching to see all of this go on, but moving on their journey, they will. In search of more magic, Freyren ends up in an old town. Talking to an herbalist, they go over to a statue of Himmel. They see that it's covered in vines. They decide to clean it off, as the old lady tells them she is much too old to be able to clean it by herself. After they've cleared it off, there was talks of using magic to make a flower bed around the statue, make it look beautiful. Freyren thinks about it for a second after almost casting a spell, and then went, she needs blue moonweed. She has never seen it in her life, but it was something that Himmel the hero wanted to show her. After she has found some, she would like to then make a flower bed out of it. Looking around the village, there's nothing there, and the old lady tells her, "We have not had it for over a couple of decades." So from there, Freyren tries to search because it's got to be there somewhere. And Fern is not looking too happy about this. She then, after a while of searching, goes and talks to the old lady. Fern and the old lady's conversation is about how Fern is not sure how long this is going to take, that Freyren has a warped sense of time and this doesn't bother her, but Fern feels like this is wasted effort and a waste of time to do this for so long. The old lady says, "Well, you're probably right, but with Freyren's different sense of perspective, it gives her a different outlook. Gotta look at it from both sides and understand." She then gives Fern a bag of seeds, presumably the blue moonweed. As Fern goes back to talk to Freyren, they have a nice little conversation, kind of nothing that's shown to the viewer, and once you can start hearing conversation, it's about the seeds. Maybe we can plant some, maybe it'll grow over time, be a nice flower bed. Freyren decides to tell her, that's not quite good enough. And Fern is a bit upset about that. Freyren says, "Hey, we will find this soon. I promise." Fern goes, "Soon? How soon?" And Freyren responds with "soon." As Fern starts going off on her again, Freyren tells her to be quiet. You see one of the seed rats come up, grab the seeds, and run off with them. They use magic to follow this seed rat, as seed rats tend to hide the seeds somewhere safe and out of place of humans. Once they follow the rat back to its nesting place, they find that it is on top of a tower, and they see a blue petal fall down. Freyren then flies up and finds a whole bed of them, remembering how Himmel, the hero, had wanted to show her this one day. Well, now she's finally seen it. Said it took a while, but now I've seen them, and she now can cast the spell. After returning to the flower bed, she casts the spell successfully, creating a flower bed of blue moon weed around the statue. But there could be something more done. Freyren decides to take some of the flowers, tie them together in a crown, and place them on Himmel the hero's head. It makes a very nice and touching scene. And for this episode, I would give it another 9 out of 10. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, let's move on to the third episode, as all 4 episodes have aired the first week, and we will have a 5th episode next week. Freyren, Episode 3. In this episode, we start off with Freyren talking about needing to go shopping. She is going to go ahead and send Fern off for some stuff, but Fern notices the smile on Freyren's face, and it's like, oh no, she makes that face anytime she's trying to keep something a secret. So, Fern decides to go and hide, follow Freyren around and see what is it that she's going to go buy this time that she shouldn't. Because previously, Freyren has bought a giant skull that was unnecessary. She'd bought a something that melts clothing, and Fern just like, no, take that back right away. And then a memory about, buying a book of magic history. Now that book, not so problematic, okay? But, they don't have all the finances in the world to buy everything. So, we get following her around, and she asks about a sweet shop. Fern, thinking this is unfair because she wants some sweets too. She ends up following Freyren down into a little, how to describe it, a basement bar with some very rough-looking people. She asks, do you guys know where to find some sweets? And they start cackling a little. It's like, this seems a little off-putting. But Freyren does not respond, only Fern, as she's hiding back by the entrance. So the guys are like, yes, we know where to find all of the best sweets in town. I mean, we're adventurers after all, we have to have some sugar to get re-energized. And they go ahead and tell Freyren where to find them. And Fern is surprised. It's like, oh wow, these guys are actually adventurers and they do know where to find sweets. Well, Freyren starts heading back towards the inn, and at that point, Fern realizes, I haven't done any of my shopping, oh no. So she starts to rush to go shopping, get the stuff they need, and meets back up at the inn. Freyren then comments, wow, it took you a while to get back. And, oh well, never mind that. Go ahead and put the stuff down, and hey, let's go out somewhere. So they go over to the sweet place that was recommended. To Fern's surprise, it was for both of them, but Fern comments, we don't really have that much money, should we really be doing this? And Freyren says, oh, I've been keeping some secretly, hidden. So Freyren apparently has some secret savings. But Fern then orders something and says what Freyren's going to order reminds Freyren of the exact same thing that happened when she was traveling with Himmel and the rest of her party. Himmel's like, yes, we've been traveling together for a while now, and I can tell what you want. And then the dwarf says what he wants. And then you get the corrupt priest who's about to say something, and Freyren interrupts with, you want alcohol. Just proving the point that he is a corrupt priest, but then Himmel says, that's not a good thing that that's the only thing she remembers about you. And then, going back to present day, we get to see as Freyren gives Fern a gift. A present. It's like, I don't know what you like, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to know you better, but here you go. It's a lovely gesture, and Fern says that she's grateful that Freyren is trying to get to know her, even though Freyren may not completely understand humans' emotions very well, and opens it up and finds a beautiful hair ornament in there. We then go to find out that, yeah, it was her birthday. Fern's birthday. It was a sweet little gesture, and then the next day they go out to adventure some more. From there they end up in a town where an old man greets them. There are two other guys with him. He's like an elf with white hair. This must be Freyren. He greets her as such, and she is like, yep, that's me, and they go, he goes, you must be here for the demon that was sealed. They proceed to go towards where the demon has been sealed, knowing that the seal is coming undone soon. So they spend the night resting up, and the next day, they go up there. During the night before, though, Freyren is asking Fern, well, talking to her, telling her about, the magic and everything. This guy created a magic that can penetrate defenses. It doesn't matter what mages did, but his attack was very strong. They had no way of defeating him at the time, and they thus decided to seal him. Well, Freyren asked some questions, and Fern could not reply to them properly. It's like, have you actually been reading that book of magic history I gave you? No, but I'll start now, Fern replies with. So the next day, at the demon, they unseal it, and he then proceeds to say, oh, I will avenge my, lord who has fallen to you. He attacks right away, and Freyren tells Fern, put up a barrier. To Fern's surprise, it's like, he just attacked with a normal attack. And Freyren tells her, yeah, that became the normal attack from mages after we'd sealed him. We then also created barriers that were much more powerful and could withstand his attack. How time moves. Forward for this demon no more. He doesn't have a new powerful attack, and humans have conquered it. So they end up taking him down easily. And their adventures continue. I think for this episode, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Not quite as high as the last two, but it was still pretty good. Well, now it's time to move on to episode 4. Freyren Beyond Journey's End, episode 4. The final episode for our first 4 in this week. So, in this episode of Freyren, we get to watch as we hear about the festival that's about to happen in this town, but they want the ocean cleared before the New Year festival happens, and between Freyren and Fern, they can probably get it done. But their payment for this is a book. A book by Flamma, the legendary mage. Freyren then asks, "Is this the only magic book you have?" And the old man replies with yes. She accepts it and then later tells Fern that this book is a fake. Most books attributed to Flamma are fake. So why would she do this? Well, it's just something good to do for the people, helping out. So later we get to the point where they're clearing it up, the ocean, and now everything's looking pretty good. The old man comes back and he says, would you be willing to watch the New Year Festival with us since you didn't get to last time? She decides to watch this, agrees to at least, and Fern kind of looks in disbelief, like, are you sure? You aren't very good at getting up early, as when they were cleaning the ocean, there were quite a few issues. And to Fern's surprise, the other party members did not really complain to her much about not waking up earlier. There was just one time where the corrupt priest looked at her and clicked his tongue for oversleeping, but they were very patient. Now, we move on, and well, Freyren decides she'll just stay up all night if she has to see this sunrise. She remembers that Emil the hero had said, "Why didn't you stay up or wake up to see the sunrise with us? You would have loved it, it was beautiful." She doesn't exactly believe that she would have enjoyed it, but she decides to anyways. It's just something that doesn't interest her, but the hero said otherwise, so she wants to see it. Well, we get to the next morning, and Fern wakes up and sees, well, Freyren has fallen asleep. She wakes her up, they go to see the sunrise, and she's like, yeah, it looks nice, but I don't know. She thought that to herself, and Fern then says it's beautiful. It's not something that you could have seen alone, but Fern says, yeah, you definitely couldn't have seen it alone because you would have overslept. You never would have woken up. From there, we move on, and they go and meet Ison over at his home. He has 2 graves outside of it where he has buried his parents. He ends up telling Freyren that, yeah, him and the corrupt priest, they communicated quite well. They sent letters all the time. It was a very nice little thing, but they found some information on Flamma that may actually be legit. Even though most of the time, as we've stated it before, that the tomes attributed to Flamma, they're fake. So from here, they go on a little adventure deep into the forest. They do eventually make it to a place, and to Freyren's surprise, it was Flamma's home. It was a legit location for her, and they can actually find something. After uprooting the tree and getting into the house, they see a tome floating there, and it flips to a page. Fern is like, is this real? And then Ison says, yes, this is real. This is, Flamma, the legendary mage, was Freyren's teacher. Freyren was one of her best students. There, we are asked, well, Freyren is asked, "Is this does it have anything about the dead in it?" And she replies with, "It opened up straight to that page. My master knew I would have come back here, searching for something like this one day. Even after 1,000 years." So, they find out they have to go to the northernmost point on the continent, and there's a place where you can speak with the dead. But unfortunately, that place seems to be where the Demon Lord's castle was. So Freyren will have to go on a 10-year journey again. So with this, Freyren and Fern set out to go to where the demon's castle was. It'll be a long journey, but we may have plenty of stuff to see from the previous party's past. I would rate this episode an 8 out of 10. Again, it's a little bit less than the previous one, but still pretty good. I enjoy the storytelling here, I enjoy the interactions between the characters, and I think it's a beautiful story. I look forward to watching more next week. And Dark Gatherings, episode 13. In this episode, we get to start off with Keitaro and the group. We get to see them having the cursed arm from the last episode, and them talking about how they'll need to go get another graduate spirit that has been sealed off somewhere else for their next adventure. After it's just Keitaro and Eiko in the room, we get to see her talking to him about how much he didn't really seem to be having issues with the spirits. We get to see her act a bit creepy and unsettling as she's done once before, kind of reminding us that she might not be quite right in the head, but also that Keitaro might be the same. From there, we move to seeing them go get the graduate before they head over to the old tunnel. This graduate used to be a soldier who cannot pass on for some reason. But Yayoi, she's promised him that she'll help him pass on as long as he helps her. Unfortunately, he seems to bring other soldiers around him that are dealing with a lot of dehydration and are thirsty. So they go and attack people. He was sealed for just causing problems like that, but he could be a very useful tool to them. On their way there, they stop and get some water bottles, something to be a bit more protective. Well, once they get there, they see a mannequin and the TV. The TV suddenly turns on. They see an old soldier on the TV saying his name. Then all of a sudden they see the other ghosts coming towards them. As they start to get attacked, they have to fend them off and get the doll that is hidden on the mannequin. After getting it, all things go well. We get to see Eiko later going again, showing her crazy side and how excited she was over all of this. I think it was not too intense of an episode. None of them seemed to scare me, but I would rate this a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'll continue watching the series. Ragna Crimson, Episode 1. In this episode, we get to see Ragna going around with Leo, or Leonis, as she is slaying dragons and he is there to help her. We get to see them take down a dragon at the beginning of the episode and find out that dragons have a weakness to both sunlight and to silver. Silver weapons are very effective on them, and from there, we get to see them go back, enjoy a meal together, and, well, the second strongest dragon slayer in the town after Leonis is making a commotion. He is saying how Ragna is just there, taking part in her fame, but not actually contributing and actually being a hindrance. There, Leonis gets angry, knocks over the table, and points her blade at the second strongest Sykes and tells him that is he willing to help her? Is anyone there willing to help her as she slays all the dragons, even the goddess of dragons, the dragon god, whatever they may be? Is anyone going to help her? She asks this question. No one else in the hall there responds, except for Ragna, who raises his hand and says that he'll help. And Leonis replies with, and that's why she likes Ragna so much, because he is willing to do that. He is fighting alongside her. We get to just see their daily lives for a little bit as things go by, and, well, there have been less dragon hunts recently. What could give? Well, don't know, but Ragna keeps training hard, and harder and harder. Unfortunately, it seems to be taking a toll on him. From there, we get to see Leonis notice that he seems quite tired. We get a flashback of when they first met, and Leonis sees him being bullied. She saves him, and she tells him that, hey, I see something in you. You could be someone strong like me. So she decides to work together with him. We also get Ragna remembering how everyone he's ever been with, starting with his parents, were eaten by dragons. Then some relatives took him in, and they were eaten by dragons. Then some rich guy bought him and started taking care of him, and the rich guy's house burned down. Ragna was on his own, and people started blaming him. It's your fault. You're telling the dragons. You're talking to them. You must be the one at fault. Or you're cursed. Something. You're on the dragon's side. So people started bullying him for it. Well, from there, we get to hear about how a town that was never attacked by dragons for some reason, considered a safe place, was suddenly burned down to the ground. That place had a very nice bakery. It was well known, but sadly they can't go there anymore. No one can. Later, we hear that the dragons are coming and are going to destroy the town they're in. When all this starts going down, Ragna remembers a dream he had earlier about how Leonis is going to die to a dragon. He wants to leave now, preventing her death. He fears that she is going to die. He'd been seeing visions of this old man telling him that he's not strong enough, he's not capable. Well, the dragon that did kill her, he had appeared just as Ragna had dreamt. We get to see Ragna try to step in to protect her so that she would not die this time, like she did in his dream. Unfortunately, it was still not enough. He was attacked by the dragon into the river, and the dragon proceeds to fight Leonis. As he is sinking down, he gets to see visions from this old man again. The old man reveals himself as Ragna's future self, that Ragna is not strong enough. Ragna requests the old man's help. Desperate for power and strength, the old Ragna tells him you will have to pay a price. But Ragna happily accepts anything that can help him stop the dragon from killing Leonis. From here, he leaps back into the scene, slaying dragons, then fighting that dragon. The dragon had revealed to, Leonis, yeah, the dragon goddess, she is very upset. The bakery she loved suddenly closed down. The bakery that was mentioned earlier. And in that town, the dragon god there, she's like, oh, well, I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Destroy it all. So now, all of the dragons are attacking. They destroyed that town, and they've moved on to destroying this town, and probably others as well. Well, Ragna steps in, saving Leonis from her death, and killing this dragon. In a very powerful fight scene. We get to see that Ragna is crying tears because he was so worried about having lost Leonis there, and his future self is happy that she was able to be saved. Well, they have saved this town, stopped the dragons from invading it, and Ragna has passed out. Sometime later, it seems like something else is approaching. We also have a scene where older Ragna is talking to someone else, a person with red hair. She says that the price will be paid, his younger self will not be able to live long, and his older self is now dead. He has died standing with a smile on his face, proud that Leonis has been saved this time. This was a 40+ minute episode for the first episode, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would rate this an 8 out of 10. It was also quite well enjoyable. This season seems to be quite well packed with good anime, and I'm looking forward to more episodes of this. Let's see what we have next on our list. And now, for Ron Kaminohashi's Forbidden Detective Episode 1. In this episode, we get to see our main character as he is not able to go and do his job as a detective. He's not considered very good, and they're like, no, you just hold us back. You get to stay behind. Well, as he's talking to one of the older guys, Kiku says, hey, I know somebody that can help you out. I'd like you to go to this place and talk to Ron Kaminohashi. So he goes over there, tries to talk to him. It's like, Kiku sent me, so Ron comes over to the door, opens it up, and talks to him for a brief little bit. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to go be a detective. And then he falls over onto the floor, which is padded. He just lies there. So we're left wondering, why not? Why won't he help if he's supposedly so good? Well, Ron says he has a major flaw. He can't go and be a detective. He doesn't want to and tries to ignore everything that's being said to him. Well, then a call comes in and they're like, hey, Ishiki, we need your help. Come on. So Ron, after hearing about the 6th murder on the phone call there, is now starting to freak out a bit. What's going on? What's wrong? Apparently Ron can't contain himself around detective cases and must go and investigate, find out what happened. So Ron decides to follow Ishiki to the scene of the crime. There we get to see Ron acting a bit weird. He jumps over and lays next to the corpse. He starts to say some stuff. One of the things being, "I will avenge you." Wow, Ron's a bit of an interesting character. Don't think many detectives would go lay next to a dead body and tell them they'll avenge them, but Ron seems to have figured out some stuff. So they start moving on to their next location. They go and get some new clothes, some very fancy looking clothes. Probably too questionable for my taste, but hey, who am I to judge someone's style and fashion? They then go over to a barber shop where Ishiki, he's the only one that goes in, goes to get his haircut, puts his head down. The barber starts filling the sink with water, and Ishiki seems to not be moving, not be breathing, and the barber seems to be preparing something. As Ron comes into the shop and exposes everything, and, well, quickly, Ishiki pulls his head out of the water after finishing holding his breath that Ron had told him to do. Ron had figured out that this sink is filled with a low oxygen air that would make people pass out. That this barber had been murdering people. I don't know too much about detective anime, not quite my cup of tea, but hey, I mean, if this is interesting to the right people, maybe this makes sense. Or maybe this is just another detective anime for the fun of it. But they chase the criminal out onto the roof, and then Ron tells the criminal to walk off the roof, which the criminal starts to do. Ishiki starts yelling at Ron, "What if someone actually listened to you?" And then realizes the criminal is doing just that and goes to save him just before as he's falling. Ron comes back to his senses and Ishiki's yelling that he's jumped. Well, Ron starts freaking out, thinking, "Oh, good gracious, I've done it again. I've sent another person to their own death," and he's starting to wallow in the depression that he has made a mistake. The same thing he always does. And Ishiki's like, "Come on, hurry up. I'm going to start falling too," realizing the criminal hasn't fallen to their death, and Ishiki, a pure naive fool, has saved the guy. So Ron saves both of them as they start falling over the edge. A little too close to death, if you ask me. But hey, they're both saved, and Ron decides, you know what? Ishiki, I'm going to make you a great detective. I'm going to support you in all your cases because I need a pure naive fool like you to help me out. You're the only one who could really help me and save these people from dying before I accidentally kill them. I have this bad habit, this is my flaw, where I kill off everyone, every criminal that I come in contact with. And I don't really remember doing it. I don't try to do it, it just happens. I have a 100% victim rate, but all of those victims also end up dead, so I have a 0% capture rate. So with your help, we can capture all of these people that are committing crimes. I would rate this episode a 7.5 out of 10. As I've said before, I'm not a big detective anime person, but I'm enjoying this one. Let's see where it goes. And now for I'm in Love with the Villainess, Episode 1. In this episode, we get to see our protagonist, Rei. As she is tired from working too much, she goes home to play her favorite Otome game, a game where the female protagonist has many different male love interests that they can choose to romance. Well, she's not quite into the normal protagonist of the game. She actually likes the villainess, the evil female character that pledges to take down the main character of the game, ruin their life, and steal the love interest for themselves. Ray wants something different than most people do in these games. Well, she then gets transported into the game as she goes unconscious, maybe dies, I don't know. They don't quite say. But she wakes up as the protagonist, and she instantly sees Claire, the villainess of the game, next to her, and she confesses her love right away. With this, we have Claire constantly trying to take down Ray, bullying her all the time and being mean. It doesn't seem very nice, but apparently, according to Ray, Claire will never take it too far, which is oddly nice for someone being mean. I'm not sure that that's what I'd want, but hey. So, we get the constant back and forth between them. We'll get to see the three princes show up at some point during the episode and find out that Claire is in love with one of them, Prince Thane. We also have some conflict that happens there as Ray speaks about how much Claire likes Prince Thane, and then, well, Claire rejects it as a tsundere that she is. And Prince Thane just leaving, making Claire feel down. Later, we have Claire trying to figure out how to take down Ray. She ends up coming up with a good idea. The exams are coming up. There are 3 of them total, and whoever does the best in them will be the victor of this competition. She brings this up to Ray and says, if you lose, you have to leave me alone and leave. Well, Ray didn't quite like these terms, so she decides to make some herself, or if she wins. We get to see the exams. One is written. We see how Ray knows all of the answers as she's played the game and studied what answers to give for it. We get to see the next exam where it's in proper eating and being a presentable noble. Ray has some problems because she's fangirling too much over Claire. So, well, the instructor is deducting points for her lack of nobleness. And then we move on to the third exam of magic, where Ray misses the target but on purpose. Later we get to see the result of these tests, and, well, as expected, Ray wins the first one, the written exam. The second one, Ray, she did not win, so second one goes to Claire. And the third competition of magic, we get to see that Ray has placed at the top with parentheses unmeasurable. Does that mean that Ray won this competition? Not exactly sure. The episode cuts off at that point with a lot of shock from everyone. I would rate this one a 7.5 out of 10. I think it was pretty amusing. I like the whole, being in love with the villainess. It puts a little twist on the story. And some of these other otome trapped anime that have been coming out, and it's kind of amusing watching someone who's a bit of a masochist. It's an amusing show, to say the least. So, next week, I look forward to seeing who won the competition or how they end that little debate for who won. The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent Season 2, Episode 1. In this episode, we get to see as some weird stuff's happening at the beginning of the episode. It seems like Sei, our protagonist, is in danger. Not sure what's all happening. We may find out later on in the season. After the opening happens, we get back to present day in the story. From there, we see that Sei has received a lot of gifts for helping out with monsters, and he is talking about creating some new cosmetics. From there, we get to see that Sei is introduced to some people who will handle helping her with promoting cosmetics in this other world. And we also get to see how a store that is handling those cosmetics, also following her instructions, are doing. She recommended them do some cosmetics at different strengths, and it seems to be quite popular. We also get to see that Commander Hawk has escorted her and helping her out as she is outside of her normal city. We also are recommended by this gentleman who's helping her with the cosmetics to a tea shop that is selling some exotic tea. When they sit down at this shop, they find out that, hey, this is coffee. Sei recognizes it from her old world. She enjoys it and reminisces about it a little bit. As she's going back to her normal routine, taking care of stuff, she was talking about how she was wondering if this world by chance has rice in it, and is recommended to go check out a trade city in the east. Morgenhofen, I think, is the name of it. And this episode was a bit chilling, laid back. The music was nice as usual. I like the visuals in this anime quite a bit, and I enjoyed it just like I did the first season. I'd like to rate this episode an 8.5 out of 10. It's not action-packed, but it's a very nice, relaxing show to watch. It's very nice to see the character interactions, and I enjoy it quite a bit. Hulk, episode 13. In this episode, we get to see the hero Hulk talking about his past, how he got to where he was, and the awakening of his power as a hero. He reminisces about when he was a young boy. Him and his brother had made it trying just to survive in the city. But the nobility there, or at least the child nobility, were picking on them all the time, treating them like trash. Hulk, of course, could take a beating and lasted pretty well. Big kids would usually give up after a while of getting tired. We get to see as they just keep struggling from day to day, and, well, Hulk's younger brother, Kless, he becomes sick, and he has to go searching for a doctor to help his younger brother. Unfortunately, no one decides to help them. Some people accuse them of stealing the money that they have. Like, no, they didn't steal it. Hulk worked hard to get that money. We eventually see as a young noble girl, she looks at them, hears his problem, and then runs away. Hulk, thinking that everything is doomed, no one will listen to him, is surprised when she returns with her father, who then helps get them to a doctor who will help them. They were able to get the help, and Kless gets back to full health. We get to see as the young noble girl, she ends up spending a lot of time with Kless and Hulk as kids, and the other nobility start to leave them alone. As they grow up, you get to see Kless when he is 18 years old. He is a very well-known fighter and potentially a future hero. You also get to see Helk, as he is about 22 years old, as the older brother, watching and just admiring how far his younger brother has come. He is talking with the noble who had helped them, and is being told that the noble sees some potential in Helk. Helk doesn't believe it, thinks that he is not as good as Kless, but as Helk's reminiscing, he says that what the noble saw at that time was probably Helk's ability as a hero. We get to see that Kless is going to have to be gone for a while because of monster attacks. They're starting to become more wild and many more monsters. But we get to see Hulk promise to throw a party for when they get back, and also saying that unfortunately, because he could not stick around, that did not end up happening. I look forward to finding out more about their past, and in this episode, I'm going to rate it an 8.5. I've been enjoying Hulk so far. I'm looking forward to the next episode. Tokyo Revengers, Tenjiku Arc, Episode 1. In this episode, we get to see Takemichi and his friends already being beat up at the beginning of the episode, and we get to see Kiseki Tete show up, saying that he's leading this group of people from Tenjiku. He is one of the big guys in it, he's not the leader. And that they'll be back. So we get to see a couple of the other people from Toman, the captain of the 4th and vice captain of the 4th division there. We've got Smiley and Angry. They also bring Shifuya with them, and they decide that they're going to go hunt down some members of this Tenjiku, as most of them have already left, and find out where their hideout is and attack them. On their way there, they spot a couple of guys and pull over, and you get to see Takemichi talking to Chifuyu about how he thinks that Kisaki may also have the ability to time travel. It's a pretty scary thought because, well, that explains why he's constantly getting in the way. But Chifuyu says, well, you know what? That just means he's desperate at this point because he died in the future, so he cannot return. So from here, we just need to figure out how to stop him in current day. Well, the past. The Angry and Smiley come back to them after beating up a couple of guys. And it's like, okay, we found the hideout. So they end up driving over there, and after they arrive, we cut to a scene with the leader of Toman, and we get them talking to the leader of Tenjiku, Kurokawa. So, After their short little conversation, not much is said other than he'll see him later. We cut back to Takemichi's group, and everybody has been dismissed from the building by one of the top 4 of Tenjiku. We find out that this guy is a friend of our main character. It's been many years, and it took a little bit of fighting to remember, but hey, it's like somebody he knew, who gives him a little bit of information, warns him of a spy, but also tells Takemichi, yeah, I am your enemy now though, so next time we meet, I'm not going to go easy on you. I would rate this episode a 8 out of 10. I like seeing the scene with we're not having only one time traveler, we may have more in this world. Just building up some more on this. Great start to the season. And I'm happy to see where it goes from here. We'll catch up on episode 2. Eminence in Shadow Season 2, Episode 1. In this episode, we get to see Sid Kagano as he is going to the lawless city with his sister. And we get a recap of the first season really quick, really easy and out of the way. And then we move on to the story. We get to see them going through town, his sister dragging him along, and some guy starts talking to his sister, trying to sell her pets, and she looks at them and goes, yeah, they're damaged, don't want them, and starts talking back to him a little bit. In this case, these pets are slaves, but she has no interest in it, and they end up continuing along. Sid asks her to let him go, but she says, if I let you go, you'll get lost. And then the very next scene, he is lost. Of course, karma has to happen, right? Well, he's just standing there, somebody pickpockets him, and all of a sudden you see his coin bag and another one in his hand. As he's just going about, people keep trying to pickpocket him, and he just keeps ending up with an extra coin pouch every time. Can't steal from someone like him, huh? Well, later he's going around and he sees these guys beating up a ghoul, and he decides to walk over and see what's going on as they get attacked, and he ends up getting attacked by a couple of ghouls. He thinks, oh, this is a cool scenario. And then somebody swoops in and saves him. The vampire hunter. And she says some really cool lines that Sid likes. He's like, oh, this is awesome. Later, you'll see him going around. He saves this one lady from a ghoul, and he starts repeating those lines to her. He has a new catchphrase for this arc, I guess. As he's running around, his sister's trying to find him, and she meets up with that vampire hunter, and she's crying over her dead brother, or what she thinks to be her dead brother. It's a corpse that looks similar, but nah. Once she actually took a look at it, she realized it's not him. So the two of them start wandering around together. We also get to see some scenes with like some big vampire guys having their own little plot and talking about how the rulers of the towers are fighting, and there's a mysterious force going around attacking and killing all the ghouls. We also get to see these two leaders of the towers fighting, and Sid decides to jump in and say his new cool catchphrase. He just has to find the best points to interrupt and make an entrance as the Eminence in Shadow. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I think I'd rate this one a 9 out of 10. It's pretty good, pretty amusing all the way around, watching just the various antics that happen around Sid. And I look forward to the next episode. I'm giving the disgraced noble lady I rescued a crash course in naughtiness, episode 1. In this episode we get to see as Charlotte, the noble lady, is running away from her pursuers, the knights from the town she's from. As she is running, she trips and they surround her. We get our other protagonist, Alan, who comes along and saves her. He stops these guys as they do not seem to be very nice. He ends up rewriting their memories, making them think they found her, but she was attacked by wild beasts and are returning to report this. From there, he takes her back to his house, and when she wakes up, she is shocked to see him. She does not know where she's at. He starts reading a newspaper with her in it, talking about how she's committed a crime and has run away. He tells her, don't worry, he doesn't plan to report her, and that he can tell if somebody's lying by looking them in the eyes. You realize that she is not the one that has committed any crime, but framed for something. He tells her not to worry, as somebody has betrayed him in the past too, so he understands. We find that the prince that she was engaged to had called off the wedding, saying that she had committed crimes, and Alan has come to the conclusion that he either did not want to marry somebody who's not the main royalty like her, or he had somebody else that he was in love with, so he decided to call it off and frame her for a fake crime. He also later finds out that she has been treated like a maid even though she is royalty. She does not seem to be getting treated well. He tells her that he is going to hire her to do cleaning because the house is much too big for him on his own. From there we get to see him tell her to go do whatever she wants for the day. But she seems to be a bit confused. She doesn't know what she wants to do. Well, he goes over and starts reading his books. And when he goes to his library and he looks at some papers. He sees that he has new magical research, and he is going to mark up the papers for everything that this person has done wrong, as he is known as the Red Pen Devil, and he just enjoys showing all the stuff that people have done wrong there. Once he is done, he turns around and sees that Charlotte is still in the room, and she is counting the grains in the wood. He becomes a bit concerned. He decides to go into town and get some stuff, and when he returns, he has her sit down at the table, and he is like, I have decided I'm going to teach you about all the naughtiness in the world. He pulls the cloth off the table and reveals that he has bought a ton of sweets, and says that this will be their dinner for the night. But she's like, you can't possibly do that. That's just not a proper meal. And he's like, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do things that we're not supposed to, like eat sweets for dinner. He decides that he will take her around and show her lots of delicious food, show her to various places until she gets tired of it. He wants to make her learn the nice things in life, I've come to the conclusion that for him, the word naughtiness is essentially self-indulgence, just enjoying various things in life. It seems like a sweet romance comedy, and I look forward to the next episode. This one I will rate a 7 out of 10. Not exceedingly good, but it had my interest.